All right, I think we can go ahead and kick things off. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday evening to get acquainted with our annual business plan competition called The Climb. For those who maybe saw on the RSVP form, we are recording this session, so we'll be sending out the link to the recording as well as putting it on the main landing page for The Climb on the Jake Jab Center website. So you can always refer back to that, share it with your friends who might be interested, and yeah, get some clarification on some of the things we'll be covering tonight. All right. So let's quickly introduce the fine folks on the Zoom call that are going to be talking at you for the next 45 minutes to an hour. This is the Jake Jab Center team. The Jake Jab Center is both a resource center at the business school as well as a academic program. What that means is we have a variety of courses, degree programs, certificates that students can take, as well as we work very hard to put on a variety of events and extracurricular programs to help not only business school students get more involved, but also invite in all CU Denver students to collaborate, to learn in a very hands-on and hopefully very fun way. So at the Jake Jab Center, we have these four fine folks. I am right in the middle. My name is Beatrice, otherwise known full name Sarah Beatrice Sankey, but I oversee all of the marketing and communications here. At the very top, we have our executive director, whom we call MP for short, and to make it easy. He unfortunately won't be able to join us tonight, but he'll be sure to be at all of the following workshops and in-person events we'll be having for the climb. So you definitely want to introduce yourself to him and get to know him. He has a wealth of knowledge to share. Also on this call is Claire. If you want to jump on and introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Claire Seville, and I run our operations for our center, and I also teach one of the undergrad classes. So I will be sharing some information later today, but I'm excited to be here and chat with everyone.
Yeah, next up is Brian.
Thanks so much, Beatrice. I hope everyone's doing well. My name is Brian. If you are taking entrepreneurship classes, if you're part of our MS in Entrepreneurship program, you probably know who I am. If you are not in any of those, I would love to meet you. I work on student recruitment and student advising for the Jake Jab Center. The Climb is always a great opportunity for students to not only engage with our center, but also learn about our courses, what we offer, all the opportunities that we have for further experiential work. So very, very excited to kick off another year of the Climb here and excited to meet you all.
Thank you, Brian. I'm very excited too. This annual event series and competition is always like the most fun that we have as a team. It's very high energy, a lot of things going on, and definitely a lot of fun people to meet and share ideas with. So let's get right into it. What exactly is the climb? So I keep repeating this phrase that it's both a pitch competition, right? But it's also an event series that leads up to that competition. And we really want to make it a very inclusive, collaborative experience. So we open it up to all CU Denver students. It doesn't matter if you're undergrad, grad, certificate, non-degree, in any program, any major, within any like college or school on campus. And this whole competition and event series is designed to get students very comfortable with the experience of coming up with a business idea, developing it into a viable business plan, and then pitching it in front of people in terms of learning the skills of cohesively explaining what your idea is, and then uh, making the argument of why it's a good idea to launch and invest in potentially. And so I know that's a lot to learn, especially if you've never done this before. It can be pretty intimidating. So over the years, we've introduced a series of workshops that lead up to the climb to kind of help you figure out those steps along the way. So starting with today's kickoff, now basically for the next few months, every few weeks or so, we will always be hosting workshops on Thursday evenings, always at the same time to make it easy. It's usually from 5 to 7. We'll be hosting these workshops at the business school and bringing in a variety of people. So there's going to be find folks like you, students at CU Denver who want to get involved, but we're also bringing in a lot of experienced entrepreneurs, mentors, faculty members. Of course, the entire Jake Jab Center team will be there, and we're there to support you, right? We're here to answer your questions, introduce you to the right people, find maybe a mentor who has a lot of experience, maybe in the industry or the type of idea that you're interested in. So it's not only to do that hands-on learning,
Do
but
what Margarita just showed you for the store, but for the creative.
sorry about that. Try to stay muted if you can, just because it'll share in the microphone and stuff. But anyway, continuing on. So it's not only to do that hands-on learning component, but also to gain exposure to the Denver community, the business leaders that we have. One of the benefits of being right in downtown Denver is that you have all that access to all those uh, very seasoned entrepreneurs, people in business, people in the VC world, and such. And then finally, all of this is building up to applying to the competition. You have to apply to see if you're then chosen as a finalist. And then if you're a finalist, that means you're going to come to the business school at the end of April and compete on stage, pitching your idea in front of a live audience and a panel of judges, and then seeing if you can win cash prizes for your business. Really, that final event, which we call pitch night, it's not just about winning cash prizes. It's also gaining exposure for your business, meeting really important people in the Denver area that could help you launch your business and fund your business. So, all of that to say, I want to emphasize that even if you don't end up winning first or second place at the climb, there's a lot of benefit that you can gain from the experience of being at the climb, at pitch night, and meeting all those people and getting this experience under your belt. All right. So we're now in the year 2026, if you can believe it. And this competition has been going on for more than 25 years. So we've officially launched in 2001. And over those 2 decades, the climate has changed quite a bit. In the early days, it was a much more academic driven, formal event. We used to have like all day luncheons that we had to do, and people would give presentations. Like each team would take like 45 minutes to an hour to do a very in-depth presentation. Um, Luckily, we've kind of spiced it up, sped it up a little bit too. So we're not asking so much of our students and committing, multiple days. For the current iteration, it's now again in a workshop series spread out starting in the beginning of February. Those workshops go to March. That's when applications are due at the end of March. And then at the end of April is when we have our big final night. And so when you hear pitch night, we want you to think of like a Shark Tank style live event that invites the entire community in to watch. So it's open to the public, completely free to attend. There's a bunch of free food and swag and a bunch of people to meet. It's a really fun event. And so if you're still on the fence of whether you want to apply or participate in the climb, at the very least, we warmly invite everyone to just come out on that night. That's April 23rd is when we're hosting pitch night this year, just to watch, just to see the variety of ideas that make it as finalists, the different approaches to doing pitches and things like that. And then you can kind of have fun and be like a judge yourself watching all those ideas. And maybe that will inspire you to consider participating in future years. Because we open it up to all CU Denver students, again, in previous years, we would even open it up to other schools and colleges across Colorado. And really, what was behind this was to attract as much diversity as possible, not only in those participating, but also in the ideas that are then represented on stage. We love working with business school students, and of course, we're a little biased towards our entrepreneurship students. But really, the best teams come out of those who partner up with students who are studying other areas. So, teaming up with those in like the College of Engineering or CAM, Arts and Media, even architecture. Like, we have so many schools and colleges and disciplines on campus. And that's really when you pull in those multiple disciplines, is where you get really innovative, creative ideas that have a higher success rate, right? Building on that, every team needs to have a current CU Denver student in it, but you are able to form a team even with non-CU Denver students. So you don't think that you're confined to having a team of only current CU Denver students. You can pull in maybe students who go to Boulder or Anschutz. Maybe you have friends that go to different schools that really want to be hands-on with this. You can kind of create the team that you need to support your idea. But you do need to be a CU Denver student yourself to be like the leader, the founder of your team in business. So over those 15 plus year or 25 plus years of doing this competition, we've tallied it up in a loose estimation. We have awarded more than $1.2 million to date to ventures that have gone through this program. That has been an achievement of more than 600 mentor hours shared. So, the component of having this workshop series is to match you or to, connect you with potential mentors, get the help you need, get the expertise that can really elevate your business from just a mere idea to an actual business plan that's viable and ready to launch. So really leverage this as a student. As a student, you have so many resources that are available to you that might not be later in life. And no one is gets more warm responses to, requests for help than students do. So my number one advice for anyone at CU Denver is really, really leverage your title as a current student to ask those questions, pick people's brains, and get that help that you probably won't be able to get as easily later on. And of course, from all that, connected to the climb is just like too many ventures and business ideas to count. A lot of our students and participants, of course, they go on to launch their own companies, but many, many more go on to work for other startups. They join other startups or they join nonprofits. They launch their own product or service ideas within their current companies. And then, of course, a lot of those founders have a whole career that then spans after that of us launching multiple startups. So we're very proud of our students and participants and what they've been able to accomplish. And, we're excited to continue that with hopefully, the next round and future ones to come. Speaking of, we just want to point out some notable winners of the climb from over the years. Over 25 years, we have quite a few notable people that have come through and won prizes, some even who haven't won prizes but have gone on to do incredible things. So these are just a sampling, three names here. First is Caleb Carr. He was a CU Denver student. To note, he was not a business school student initially, but he partnered up with a few business school students, and they went through the climb with their business Vita Inclinata technologies, and they are continuing to work on that business today. It's a major contractor with the Defense Department. They started with a product that was all about stabilizing helicopters when they're holding like significant loads on the helicopter, how to stabilize it if they're in like windy conditions and stuff like that. So pretty like heavy on the tech side, development side, and they did an incredible job pitching this idea when it was like truly in the infancy stages of the idea. It was like very, very early days, and it's just kind of incredible to read up on their story and see like how they took that first success of winning the climb and took it to like this huge multi-million dollar company. Next, we have Karen Hertz, which is kind of like a local hero, certainly to us at the Jake Jab Center, but also those who are part of like the brewery world here in Colorado. Karen Hertz got an MBA at CU Denver, but specialized in entrepreneurship back in 2005. And then she went on to launch Holidaily Brewing Company, which is, I believe it's definitely the country's largest gluten-free brewery, if not one of the largest in the world. So if you haven't been out in Golden, they have an incredible tap room that you can go visit there. But she has been an incredible partner and like representative of the center since graduating. She comes back for a lot of our events, and she has served as a mentor in a lot of in many years since then. And then lastly, we have Josh Pollock. If you don't know Josh's name or his face, you probably know his bagels at Rosenberg's. He came through as an entrepreneurship certificate student in 2012. He actually brought the idea for Rosenberg's Bagels through the climb and did rather well, and then went on to launch this now a chain throughout the Denver area. And he owns several other restaurants as well. So this is just a few of the notable success stories. But more recent examples, so these are the three most recent winners of the climb, starting with Brittany Guzman Taylor. She is a current or recently graduated master's student in entrepreneurship. She is the owner of Limb Skincare, or she pitched that in the climb, but she also owns a facial salon, I guess, here in the Denver area. So she was the most recent winner last year. In the middle here, we have Kim. She was an undergrad student who worked on a team in the 2024 climb called, the idea was called K Skin Box. It was a Korean skincare subscription box. She won. So we're also here trying to emphasize the variety of those who are successful through the climb. It's not always MS and entrepreneurship students. Sometimes it's undergrads, sometimes it's non-business school students. In the past, when we had it open to the entire state, we had several winners from not even CU Denver, but other schools and colleges. So it's real. We really try to instate a pretty objective judging panel that has guidelines that they follow on the judging, but it's up to them and just purely reviewing the pitches, the business plans, and the viability of the idea that you're selling. Then lastly, 3 years ago, Misha Charles, she was the first place winner at the climb. She also had a like skincare brand that she pitched called Maludi, but it's for specifically for those who are into outdoor activities and need specific biodegradable skincare products that, are about protecting and recovering your skin when you're exposed to the elements. But she did a fantastic job and is still running Maludi to this day and growing it and developing it further. All right. So I kind of touched it in pieces so far throughout this session, but here is an overall breakdown of the entire process. So hopefully you kind of see it's in very clear steps here. With today's kickoff info session, we're kicking off the entire climb series, right? So starting today, pretty much every 2 weeks on Thursday evenings, we'll be hosting educational workshops. And these are to mimic the linear process somewhat of coming up with an idea. So right off the bat, at 2 weeks from now, we'll be doing an idea generator workshop that's a little educational and then a little like brainstormish, like we're going to brainstorm as a group of how do you come up with an idea and then how do you check to make sure that it's a viable business idea that has, a market need, an audience defined or a target market defined that you could potentially and hopefully at least make revenue on, if not, be profitable at some point. And so you're going to work through that. And then hopefully, if you're looking for team members maybe to work with, those are great opportunities to meet fellow students, again, meet potential mentors, and hopefully form your team early on. After that, then we have a really fun event workshop called Pitch Market. Pitch Market is kind of like a speed dating style event where you're going to be thrown into the event center. There's going to be mock investors set up in the room, and you're going to come with like a 2-minute pitch of an idea that you're considering, that you're working on, and you're going to work the room going from investor to mock investor, pitching this idea. And the point is to see like get real-time feedback on how you're pitching this idea, what are the questions that are coming up, how can you tighten it up, make it more clear, make it more enticing. So that's going to really help you get that like real-time quick feedback on what you're working on. And then the following and final workshop that we'll be having in March is called Startup Consulting. So this is like, hopefully at that point, you have an idea that you're feeling pretty confident about. You're starting to work on your business plan. You're starting to work on that application. And then it's going to be a more, I guess, intimate version than Pitch Market is. Pitch Market's very high energy and pretty rapid pace. Startup consulting is a lot more free flowing. You can actually sit down with experts in a variety of fields like marketing, team management, finance, things like that. And you can actually ask serious questions about, like, well, how do I structure this? Or should I include this in my business plan? Should I include this in my pitch video? Kind of helping you fine tune those smaller details. And so that will then lead up to the application deadline that is on Friday, March 20th. We'll be going through details of the application in a little bit, so just sit tight for that. But once you have the application submitted, we'll be reviewing. We as a team review it, and then we have a whole group of online reviewers that we have. So this is quite a large group, and multiple people will be reviewing every application and scoring it. We we normalize all those scores so that we can, as objectively as possible, look at all of the applications, all of the reviewer scores against it, and see what are the top applications that can then go on as finalists. So this kind of carries us through spring break. During that process, once we get back from spring break, in that week or two after, we'll be announcing who the finalists are. And then we'll be working with the finalists, working up till pitch night, getting them ready, getting you all set. We do practice pitches with finalists, work through a lot of questions, and make sure that you're very well prepared and confident for pitch night itself. And then once pitch night, very chaotic, very fun night. Once we have the winners, we kind of work with the winners on getting those cash prizes awarded to you. And so basically everything is wrapping up a little bit leading into May. But that is the major steps of the climb. All right, so who can apply? So really the number one requirement that everyone needs to know is that whether you go solo or you form a team, the number one rule is that each team needs to be led by a current CU Denver student. Outside of that, there's a lot of wiggle room, right? So it could be any type of student. It could be a non-degree student, undergrad, grad, any type of program or major. But you need that leader, that primary founder of your group to be a current CU Denver student. Again, a lot of people every year end up going solo, but you're more than welcome to form a team. It can really lighten the load. It can really increase the collaboration, the level of innovation to work with other people. We really highly recommend working with other people, at the very least, working with mentors. But the only thing to note here is that, pitch night, it's on a stage, it's a live event. We can't have like teams of 10 people taking the stage, of course, for, a 4-minute pitch. So keep in mind that if you do work with a team, you're going to have to select 2, maybe 3 people at the most to present on pitch night itself. That being said, you could have a team and just pick one person to pitch. It's kind of up to you. But you do need that at least one person to be in person for pitch night to give your presentation. Beyond that, for this competition, we call it an early stage, very early stage, pre-launch competition for startups. So what we mean by that, there's a nice spectrum of the ideas that come through the climb. We have so many students here, a variety of ages. So some people come through the climb with purely a conceptual idea that then they then do a lot of research on to see if it's viable, to create their business plan. Other people come through with an idea that maybe they've already started working on. Maybe you've already had some classes that you've taken, you've already started working on a business plan, maybe you started building out a team. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we can even have some that have already launched, that are already operational. Maybe you have an online store, you already have some revenue coming in. So to keep it as fair as possible while allowing for that variety, we ask that if you are applying, we're going to check that if you're an operating business already, you have to have total sales and revenues that are less than 75,000 per year. This is just to keep it fair. We don't want someone coming in with like a super strong, 5 years of operation under their belt, going up like a brand new, fresh idea. Um, and building on that, we also ask that by the time of application, which would be March 20th, you haven't received any seed, angel, or venture capital funding for this business idea. So anyone who's reading this and their heart dropped because they realize they're not qualified, um, don't think like that bars you from all of this. That maybe means like you can apply with another idea. Maybe you have an idea that you're working on or you're toying with just in the ideation stage. I think there's a lot to be gained from going through the climb in terms of just learning. And I would highly encourage you all to then consider that as an option if maybe you've identified that a current business you have is maybe too far along for this competition specifically. And also, if that's the case, please reach out to us because we know of a lot of pitch competitions that happen in the area. And if you don't qualify for this one, we're more than happy to point you in the direction of maybe one you're more qualified for. Okay. So can I apply again if I applied or competed in the climb before? The short answer is yes, probably, but there's qualifications to this. So again, in the efforts of keeping things fair, we ask that if you've applied to the climb before, but you were not chosen as a finalist, meaning you haven't made it to pitch night and presented on stage, you are more than welcome to apply again and compete with the same concept or business idea that you had done originally. We do this, and this actually happens probably more frequently than people would assume. And that's because, entrepreneurship is always a work in progress. You're always working on ideas, getting feedback, reshaping it, hopefully pivoting based on that feedback that you get. And so often we'll have, students maybe earlier in their academic career, they come in, they apply for the climb, they're not picked as a finalist, but then they get feedback on their idea, they tweak it, they work on it, maybe as part of their class assignments for the year. And then it's, the next year and they've really improved their idea. We don't want to discourage that. We want to actually more so encourage that, bring that revised business plan and do the application again. And you're probably going to have a lot more of a higher chance of getting in following years. So don't be discouraged if you're not chosen as a finalist. You can always come back following years and reapply and hopefully get in after you've improved your idea a little bit. However, if you have applied to the climb before and you were chosen and competed as a finalist, so you were on stage during a pitch night, you can apply again, but we ask that you don't reuse that idea. So if you've made it as a finalist, so I guess the most common case where this comes up is if someone is chosen as a finalist, they compete, but they don't win a prize. Sometimes they come back the next year and they want to try again. Unfortunately, because you did compete as a finalist, we don't want you to take the stage with the same idea. In that case, we're going to ask you to come up with a new idea, work on a new idea. Hopefully, you're going to be better situated. You can apply everything you've learned from the previous cycle and apply it to this new idea, but we just don't want the same ideas coming through, year after year in that way at pitch night. Okay. Okay. So, what types of business ideas can you submit? We are at the Jake Jab Center. We're under the umbrella of the University of Colorado, which is a state and federal funded public school. So because of that, we have to align our programs with what the University of Colorado is allowed to do. So based on that, we are not allowed to allow businesses that are related to cannabis, gambling, or real estate to come through the climb. That being said, again, we know of a lot of pitch competitions, whether they're academic related or just organization related in Colorado. So if you kind of fit this category with the idea that you want to pursue, reach out to us. We can connect you with other options, other pitch competitions that you wouldn't be barred from. But otherwise, there really is no limit on the industry. Um, I highly recommend if you're curious about this, you can kind of poke around and go through all of the stories that we've posted on past winners of the climb just to kind of see the variety and the types of businesses that come through. But really, it runs the whole gamut. Like we have very like creative arts and media related ones. Of course, food and beverage like Holidaily and Rosenberg's
Say, oh,
Bagels.
very nice. You too.
Oh, okay. And then we also have a lot, of course, like tech businesses, like apps and things like that. The one caveat here, I just really want to stress, and maybe just a little helpful reminder and nudge. AI is a huge category and topic right now. It's very exciting. There's so much potential in AI. But we ask that if you are looking to make AI a component of your business idea, please fully own that concept. Like if you want to make sure that you are showcasing that you know AI well enough to integrate it into your business. And if you don't yourself know well enough, maybe find someone who can join your team, who can then be provide the expertise to validate that this is number one, possible, right? A lot of people will pitch an idea for a platform, an app that uses AI, but when an investor starts to ask specific questions, it completely falls apart because this person hasn't worked with AI before. We want to avoid that as much as possible. So um, that's all to say, we're not saying don't use AI, of course, but if you are to use AI, just make sure that you can represent some level of expertise and really make sure that you're kind of like dotting your I's and T's, making sure that it's plausible and possible for your idea. Okay. Okay, I think this is my last slide with you all tonight. This is one of the most common questions we get, and we like to address it up front during this kickoff session, just because we know, it's very nerve-wracking to go on stage in front of all these strangers and share an idea that you're holding really close to your chest, that you've spent a lot of time and effort on, and it's natural to be worried that someone might steal it. With all of that addressed though, I want you to keep in mind that the requirements of this competition for the application is just a very short pitch video. You then submit a condensed business plan. And then on PitchNet itself at the live event, you'll be sharing around a 5-minute pitch. It's pretty short. Think of it like Shark Tank, right? In most real VC meetings, you would have a much longer pitch presentation where you get into the nitty-gritty details of things. They would be reading extensive business plans with all of your numbers and like really doing their due diligence to check everything. And in those cases, it can make sense to have some type of agreement if you're sharing, essential information. But in the context of this competition, a 4-minute pitch shouldn't be enough to reveal really, sensitive IP. Um, First of all, I would say if you have anything that sensitive, don't share the specifics of it in a pitch, right? Like there's a way to talk about your idea and put it in layman's terms without revealing really, highly sensitive information. And even with that, if you still find it very difficult or if you're still really nervous, I would take that as a red flag. If you have an idea that is so fragile that even explaining it in 2 minutes, you think someone could easily take that idea and do it as well as you could, that means you might not have as strong of a competitive advantage as you would like. Because, in any type of go-to-market launch, you're going to have to share what the idea is, the benefits of using that product or service, and that means anyone can start copying it at that point. So, we really want to emphasize that if you are feeling nervous, yes, come talk to us. We can, match you with a legal expert. They can help you go through what the process would be to like better protect your idea. But at the end of the day, you want to have an idea that isn't so fragile that someone could steal it easily, because that means the idea probably won't be successful. A large part of launching a business is, yes, coming up with an innovative idea, but really the heart of the success is how you launch it, the team behind it, the processes in place, the structure of the business. All of that is what makes a business successful. I think Shark Tank, as much as we refer to it, it really kind of the entertainment aspect of it makes it seem like the just the idea itself is like the key to success, when really it's the execution. So yeah, come talk to us about that. We can talk about, how so many years of other students, other participants have handled this in the past. And as a last resort, we can always match you with a legal expert who can answer those specific questions. All right, I think Claire, you're up.
All right, awesome. Well, now that hopefully you're all very excited to actually submit the application, let's chat about how you would go about doing so. So we collect applications through what we call, or the website called Startup Space, and very simple, very straightforward. Requires you to, prep a few things in advance, but then going through the actual application itself is quick and easy. So, what to prep? Number one, a 90-second pitch video of your business idea or existing startup. And number two, a 5 to 6 page condensed business plan, which includes a partner agreement if you are going to have a team of two or more people. So again, these are honestly relatively low lifts to get through the application phase, and that's intentional. We just need to see a little snapshot, see that there's been, some critical thinking that's gone into the materials. It's also an opportunity for us to kind of assess the quality of your materials, both with the video pitch and the actual written submission. And these are all due Friday, March 20th, 11:59 p.m. So you've got quite some time. The deadline is intentional. It basically is one of the final steps, obviously, before actual pitch night, but it allows you to participate in some of the events that Beatrice mentioned that I'll go into more detail and get some mentorship, get feedback, talk to other professionals, other peers, etc., and really, hone in those materials before you do actually have to submit on the 20th. It's free, so again, no reason to not apply. I've seen a few names in here tonight that I know are in classes in the entrepreneurship department. For example, if you're taking the ENTP 6020 with either MP himself or Brian Steer, or if you're taking ENTP 3299 with Brian Steer, you guys will already be doing these materials as assignments for your classes. So again, absolutely no reason you shouldn't be at least applying. So with that said, let's move to the next slide. Talk a little bit more about some of the materials. Yes, okay. So some of you are like, I don't know. I'm not a videographer. I don't have all the skills that somebody in maybe the digital media or College of Arts and Media major might have. Well, two things. One, totally fine. I've seen some incredible, honestly, high quality pitch videos come through the application portal that are quite simply you setting up either a Zoom like this and recording yourself or just on your iPhone. The biggest thing to keep in mind is it's the quality of the content. It doesn't have to be some majorly flashy, demonstration of your digital skills. That being said, if your idea
That
is
tequila,
related to
margarita, kind of skinny margarita.
if your idea is related to something that requires you to, or that will require you to have those types of digital skills, it might be a nice opportunity to showcase those. There are resources, on campus if you do want to kind of zhuzh it up a bit. But again, don't put too much pressure on yourself. And honestly, the quality of your presentation skills and speaking to the camera and the quality of the content, way more important. One thing I do want to address, because this came up a couple times last year, do not speed up your video to fit within that 90 seconds. There were a couple videos that came through that were like, la, 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 la. We're like, okay, well, I can't hear anything that you're actually saying. So, obviously do, make efforts to stick within that 90 seconds because not all judges will watch past the 90 seconds. And also just out of respect to the other applicants, but do not speed up the video digitally to make it fit within the 90. So just a little side note there. Little tips and tricks from someone who has reviewed many videos over the past several years. All right, let's talk about the events. This is my favorite part. These are all so fun and majorly productive opportunities for a variety of different reasons. And as you're on this call, if you're like, oh gosh, like I'm so excited about potentially applying to the climb and submitting a business idea, but like maybe not this year. That is totally fine. It is still super, super valuable or a super valuable use of your time to attend these events as an opportunity to prep for maybe a future application cycle, such as next year. The other thing is that all of these events are incredible opportunities for two major things. One is networking. the rooms filled with not only your peers that are also really excited about entrepreneurship and potentially launching startups, but also we as the Jake Job Center team pack the room for several of these events with local entrepreneurial experts from a variety of different industries. So, think digital marketing or, venture capitalists, people in the legal space, managing teams, etc. People that have been serial entrepreneurs themselves, people that have launched, one major business and have run that for their whole career. So just, the sky's the limit as far as the type of people that we recruit for these. And so it's just a really wonderful opportunity to, chat with these individuals, learn from these individuals, and get feedback. So the second major thing is an opportunity for feedback on these. And so what I highly recommend, and I would say a common thread in people that are successful in, not just getting into the finals, but also winning, is taking and applying feedback. I know that, when you've been, super excited about your own idea and, again, kind of like Beatrice was saying, like holding it near and dear to your heart and not letting everyone else in, people do that for different reasons. Sharing your idea that you're super excited about can be a very vulnerable experience because you are opening yourself up to, potentially some constructive criticism, but that is how ideas get better. And that is how you launch successful startups. And so be open to feedback. And if you aren't sure how to apply the feedback, ask. So just, come to these events, ready to learn from experts that have been through this. And then, really utilize their expertise as well as our team's expertise in how to, effectively apply that feedback and just, kill it on the application and hopefully get to that final competition. So, off my soapbox, we can talk a little bit more specific about the actual events here listed. So the next one coming up, this is a more intimate event, I would say, the Idea Generator. We start off with a workshop just with our team and then open it up for an opportunity to kind of workshop your ideas with you. So kind of talking through the ideation, but also idea validation stages. Like Beatrice said, everything's on a Thursday, so just clear your Thursday calendar for the next couple months here, and we will, look forward to hanging out. So next up, pitch market startup consulting. These are, I would say, highly engaging, high energy events. Very fun. Highly recommend, again, for anybody, even if they're not planning to actually apply to the competition this cycle. So pitch market is a great opportunity to practice for that pitch video that I mentioned. You don't have to come prepped, with an absolutely, honed in, like locked in pitch, but it does benefit you to prep a little so that you can at least have a plan of attack going in, because you'll have the opportunity to pitch 2-minute pitches around the room to mock investors that we've recruited from around Denver. So again, ex-VCs, current angel investors, people in the actual like funding spaces, as well as just other entrepreneurs that have pitched themselves and, raised, seed funding throughout their own journey. Towards the end, like it is a competition, so you are competing as you pitch around the room. Each mock investor, which I see how many mock investors, I would say around 15. You do the same pitch every time. So the nice thing is that you come in with one. It's a lot of fun. Personally, to kind of see where pitches start at the beginning of the night. And then, on your 15th pitch, you're a pro. It is just a lot of growth even within that, hour or so. And so each mock investor has a fake $1 million. I always have to emphasize fake, that they are awarding throughout the night to, the pitches that they're most impressed with. And then we do have, just some smaller scale fun, like swag prizes towards the end based on who wins the most fake investment dollars. All right, so that's a fun, fast-paced one. Startup consulting is intentionally the one right before the application deadline because we pack the room with also around 15 plus local entrepreneurial experts that are acting as consultants. I mean, who's ever heard of free consulting? It rarely exists. So definitely take advantage because these experts are graciously gifting their time to come answer questions, provide advice. The more prepared you can be with your preparation as far as like what do you want to get out of that night? Like what types of questions do you need answers? Is your weak point, your operating budget is your weak point, the digital marketing strategy, kind of understand where you have gaps in order to best utilize your time. Because there are, a lot of people that you can chat with that evening. And so it's best to kind of come up with a game plan. That is honestly a pretty informal event in the sense that we, station all the consultants at tables and then it's just a free-for-all. Everyone is welcome to chat as they please. One thing that I didn't mention that is worth mentioning, all of our events have food, so come hungry, come ready to snack. And if you're like, oh gosh, I could never, eat before I have to pitch 15 times, that's fine. We like to send people home with food too. So lots of fun. Lots of productive conversations. And then ultimately, I would say, going back to a question that was in the chat earlier, yes, ironic that three of our past first place winners are actually the three in the last 3 years were all skincare. But honestly, common thread there as far as their quality of presentations, they were highly participatory in events leading up to the climb. They were pitching around the room. They were asking questions of consultants. They were applying the feedback that they got when chatting with these, experts in the room. And then they won the first place prize. So, that being said, just another little piece of motivation there to actually be intentional about coming and participating in these experiences. And then, of course, pitch night. So Beatrice mentioned, obviously, it is required for our finalists to show up there on stage and pitch live, but also super, super fun experience for those of you that are either not planning to apply or are not selected this round for, competing as a finalist. We start out with some tabling at the beginning where you get a chance to kind of walk around and see who will be competing that night and what their ideas are. Obviously, food, more networking. A lot of our local Denver community comes to attend this event and watch. So again, great networking for, business purposes. And then, of course, watching the pitches is always super fun to kind of see what they're putting out there. Okay, moving right along. So the dream, obviously. What if you do get selected as a finalist? Yes, you will be required to do a couple more things in preparation for competing that evening. And one of them is submitting an actual full business plan. That deadline is April 12th. And the reason for that is that we do share the business plans with the judges ahead of time. In a 4-minute pitch, they're able to assess a handful of things, but they're going to want to take a deeper look at, your financials, for example. Who are you going to be doing this with? So, operations and management team, et cetera. So we do need to give them time to review your business plans in depth before pitch night. Also, we do require, so post business plan submission. So we try and space things out so that, you aren't too overwhelmed with the deliverables here. After that, you will be required to attend a practice pitch, which is essentially just you giving your pitch to the Jake Jabs team. And this is, I would say helpful to you guys. Like obviously we're happy to help and provide feedback, but this is for you. So when you come in, the more prepared you are, the better, because we can actually give you really specific feedback to implement, and practice before you get up on the real stage and actually are pitching for real. And we have seen the event, we plan the event, we host the event, so we know, what does well, what you need to highlight in your pitches. Strategies around, content to focus on. And of course, we work with the judges. And so we know over the years, what they're looking for. All right. And then of course, again, you gotta actually come pitch live on April 23rd. Okay, so let's say you are not in MP or Brian's classes for the business plan this spring, or that you haven't taken him before. Totally fine. I have full faith in all of you that you are completely capable of completing a business plan. And so we do have a template. Highly recommend using it. Consistency is great, especially when our judges are taking a look at six of them. So you might as well use, what they're familiar with, and that will only help you. And again, if you do have any questions as you are prepping your business plans, please just reach out to our general inbox, and one of us will get back to you and answer questions or provide, advice, etc. Okay, so what's in it for you? Well, we are very excited to announce that we're actually upping the potential prize amounts for each level this year. And so I will explain just a little bit of what that means. Historically, our prizes were 10K, 5K, and then 2,500, but we are going to be implementing a new opportunity this year that first place is up to $20,000, second place is up to 10,000, and then mission driven is up to 5,000. So the minimums will still align with what the prize money was in the previous years, but we're really excited to offer this opportunity because it gives a little bit more flexibility to our judges to assess, where the ventures are at, as well as the quality of the pitch. So if somebody comes in and absolutely, blows them away, they have an incredible pitch and they know what they're doing, they have very specific plans for how to use the prize money and what they're going to be doing next. Great. We want them to be able to award up to $20,000 for that first place prize. So judges will have a rubric, but ultimately my best and biggest advice for finalists is to be specific about your financial plans. Obviously, talk as though you are planning on winning that 20,000 full prize. So, clearly be able to articulate how you plan to use that money. Is 5K going to be allocated to, I don't know, a digital platform? Is 15K just straight up going to go to app development? I don't know. Be specific, and that will help your case. And of course, be part of what we communicate to the judges as far as how they're deciding how much prize amount is awarded. But anyway, be specific in your ask. That's the biggest piece of advice here. And then one quick note on the Mission Driven Award. This is not exclusive to nonprofits. So please be aware that if you have a mission at the core of your startup's values, please explain that and highlight that and impress upon the judges what that is and why it is core to your startup, just so that you can make sure that you are eligible for that mission-driven award. All right. So, okay, what else? Obviously some early funding is wonderful, but it doesn't just stop there. Ultimately, there's a couple other opportunities that I absolutely recommend taking advantage of. And the first is pitching to the Rep Bridges Venture Fund. This is a student-run venture fund where you can apply, so submit, similar materials, business plan, etc., to the fund club. And then if selected to pitch, you go visit the club, do your pitch, and you're eligible for some additional funding up to 50K. And then keep your eyes open for upcoming information about our Fall 26 Incubator program. That just quick little snapshot is where we select a handful of teams that are ready to launch and maybe move into that MVP, market research, development phase, launch phase, etc. And there's some curated workshops. You get assigned a very specific mentor that actually works with you throughout the program, typically around an 8-week program. But we will be developing and designing that throughout the next couple months, and we will share information post pitch night on April 23rd. And then, of course, just a handful of other things that were at the bottom of that in terms of recognition. You're in front of a whole audience, mentorship workshops, and obviously the money. All right. So if you win, one major requirement: you must form a business entity. We're talking LLC or similar. Otherwise, we can talk about that more if you have questions. But if it's not finalized before pitch night, not a huge deal, but it absolutely must be official by May 31st, 2026, or you forego your prize money. So I'm in charge of paying you, And I ultimately am required through our internal procurement to pay an entity. I can't pay a person. So I have to pay an entity. It comes in the form of a physical check. You get a large, physically large check on actual pitch night, and then you get a regular size check with the actual money post pitch night. It can be quite an excruciating process of back and forth with little details about filling out a W-9, etc., depending on what procurement is asking for. But ultimately, as long as you have an entity formed before May 31st, I will persevere even if it takes until September to get you paid. So, don't, make any major purchases the day after pitch night, assuming that you'll get the money like the next day. Be patient with me and we will get there as a team, but just you got to form an entity. I saw a question in the chat about being an international student. Absolutely fine. We had an international winner a couple years ago, and that's just a W-8 instead of a W-9. So I will work with you on all that paperwork stuff post pitch night and help you with that process. Okay, and then of course, we love to brag about our winners. We would like to share your story. We would like to feature you in blog posts, social media. We always have photography, and we've hired a videographer for this year, so we would love to be able to feature your success, on various platforms. So ultimately, we just ask that you are open to participating in those types of things post, winning the finals. All right, that was a crash course in participating in the climb. So I know we've been trying to answer questions in the chat as we've been going, but now is the time to throw additional questions in there and or raise your hand and we will address questions as they come in. Let's see, I see any tips for non-students to find student collaborators. The events that we talked about, come to the events. And if you're at the event and you're like, oh my gosh, like I don't even know where to start, come talk to one of us, Beatrice and I, and Brian and MP. We know a lot of our students, if not all of our students in the entrepreneurship program. And so if you're like, hey, I have this idea about rock climbing, but I'm not really like, I'm not really like, I guess on the number side of the skill set or whatever, we can be like, ooh, I have some people from our small business finance and accounting class that expressed an interest in joining a venture, and they'd be a great fit. So we can make some kind of little handoffs or introductions. Just come find us if you want some assistance with that.
Yeah, even if we don't know someone
Ooh,
firsthand, we have like no qualms about just reaching out to different
yeah.
departments on campus. So we'll ask around and we'll help you.
Yes. Leslie, IP protection, you just reminded me something that I wanted to bring up. Um, like Beatrice said, our biggest advice if you're extremely concerned about that side of things and are interested in going through the IP protection is obviously to chat with an actual lawyer. And we do have a couple lawyers that we invite to our events. And so my priority is getting one to startup consulting night. So if that's a major priority of yours, the startup consulting night is the event to prioritize. But one thing I did want to mention, and this was a conversation I had this past fall at Denver Startup Week with one of the lawyers that tends to engage with our center, is just be hyper aware of the timing in which you may plug your idea into an AI platform. There's some interesting stuff coming out about timing as it relates to being able to file for patent IP protection based on when you have put something in ChatGPT. So I cannot talk further to that, so please no follow-up questions. But I will certainly be happy to get you connected to someone that is an actual legal expert in that space. So just be cognizant of that before you start throwing everything, in your majorly sensitive IP, into an AI platform. But otherwise, prioritize startup consulting.
I see a question too about is any project able to apply to the venture fund? So RepBridges is actually pretty wide open to a lot of different ventures in the Denver area. This year, we're actually implementing a new process in which we have two business plan submission rounds. So the fund looks at submissions both at the start of the fall academic semester and the spring academic semester. So we have not yet done the spring one. And this year we're going to do it in two staggered rounds. The first round is only going to be open to entrepreneurship students at CU Denver. So if you're a part of any entrepreneurship program, course, certificate, anything like that, you can apply to that round. Business plan submissions are due February 15th. And then a month later, at March 15th, they're going to be open to the entire, like anyone else who's a non-business student. Technically, the fund has said that they'll consider like late applicants, like if you miss the first round and you're an entrepreneurship student, they're not going to bar you from applying to the second round. You just might be up against more developed ideas because that's the tendency that community, those in the community might have more experience. Maybe they're already working on several businesses, but you're more than welcome to apply to both. So that's happening this spring. But of course, we would highly suggest that if you're just starting out, go through the climb first, do all the workshops, see if you can get into pitch night, because once you're through pitch night, you absolutely are more than encouraged to then apply for Rutbridge's fund in the fall, and you have a much higher chance of then getting the funding or getting higher amounts of funding through them.
This is a little random, but I'm in charge of food always. So I'm always looking for small businesses to support. So feel free to throw suggestions in the chat of types of food that you guys like in terms of small business restaurants around Denver that I might be able to work with for catering. And or if you already know you're like, oh my gosh, like I desperately need to talk to somebody who knows how to build a website, put that in the chat too, because I am currently in the process of recruiting all of the local entrepreneurial experts, and I can be intentional about that based on what people are looking for. Ah, perfect. All right. Well, I'll have sushi and we'll talk about website development.
I had a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Claire, you just brought up kind of that AI and patents, and I know that you said you can't speak further on it, but if you have any kind of like resources, like just I would love to dive into that because it's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, yes. Okay, great. Well, I'm actually chatting with my the lawyer that I was having this conversation with at Denver Startup Week about developing some sort of workshop very specific to that content area. I don't think it's going to be happening before the climb since we have so many other priorities. So I would say in general, just keep an eye out on our events website page because that's where everything will be posted when and if we do launch that workshop. But otherwise, yeah, it's a matter of if you have specific questions, it is best to just reach out via email and kind of give us a little summary of what that is. And that way we can kind of refer out as necessary to other resources. But otherwise, again, the startup consulting night is where I mean, lawyers are so busy. So if they dedicate 2 hours of their time to come to an event, like that's honestly like the best time to take advantage of their availability. So honestly, that's still my biggest recommendation. But otherwise, yeah, let us know if you have more specific questions. It would be helpful to send us an email with kind of a little summary, even if it's a bullet list.
Yeah, yeah.
Eugene has a couple questions in here. What stage is the average startup from idea to pre-launch? And then is mentorship made for workshops or any offline? Beatrice, you want to talk about the first one?
Yeah, sure. So I would say if you're speaking purely on average, I would say of all the ideas that come through as applications, we definitely skew more towards like the idea stage of this is just something that has come to you. You think there would be a great market for it. But it's you're a team of one and you've just embarked on this and you're exploring it through this process. And that's more than welcome too. But I would say if you looked at the group of winners of the climb, they're definitely a little bit further than that. I wouldn't say majority of them are operational per se. They're just more of they've been working on this for a little bit longer. They're not just doing, research on their laptop, but they're like having conversations. They're discussing with manufacturers or they're talking with research experts on their specific idea, product or service that they're working on. And they have like maybe like primary market research that they've gathered. Like they've talked to potential customers, they've done focus groups, they, have maybe prototypes or mock-ups of what they're working with. So it's a little bit more tangible, and something that they're ready to actually move on. They have the figures, laid out and all of that. So I would say there's kind of two different groups. But that being said, there's no hard rule here. If you look at our winners, there are some, in a handful of years where it's still purely just an idea, but it's just such a promising idea that is well researched that they know, okay, it might take years of R&D to actually get this launched, but they make it happen. So don't think that just because it's in the idea stage that is going to like disqualify you or make it a weaker pitch. I would just say that as long as you're conveying that you're really looking into this, you're open to the feedback, like Claire was saying. I'm always like so impressed and taken aback every year because we see this from beginning to end, and I don't even know if I have a good uh, system of like predicting which ones will win the climb because usually the ones that win are like unrecognizable from when they first started. I would say the people who do the best during the climb is that over the entire event series, they change the most, and it's because they're taking that feedback. So yeah, it is wide range, wide spectrum. So don't feel that like you're too early or anything like that. If anything, the only disqualifying factor is if you're like too far ahead.
And then for your second question, yes, I would say that the organic mentorship development, or the development of those relationships in a mentorship sense, are most effectively done through the workshops and events that we host. Just having seen the various ways we make introductions to mentors, I would say that's absolutely the most effective, just because it's kind of like an organic way in a somewhat informal setting, but it's like those people are there to help. And so it's like you've got a room packed full of people that are, wanting to help students. That being said, 100%, if you are looking for feedback, especially as it relates to kind of the application materials, and pitches, certainly email us. And like, for example, I teach our fundamentals of entrepreneurship class. I co-taught the undergrad business plan, and so I am happy to do some coaching on pitches. Obviously, time permitting. If you email me the day before your application is due, obviously I'm not going to be able to help you. So plan ahead. I'm happy to meet with people via Zoom. Happy to give feedback. The undergrad winner that Beatrice mentioned, Kim Pham, a couple years back, she met with me. She and her partner that were pitching. I think it was like 4 times leading up to the actual. I mean, she was a finalist, so obviously, she was very invested at that point. But very proactive about getting feedback, implementing feedback, not just on the idea itself, but actually like the quality of her pitching skills, that kind of thing. So just reach out via email and let us know if you're unable to attend certain events, and we can do what we can.
I want to add to that too that, like Claire said, the events are the most efficient way to meet as many possible mentors as possible. But keep in mind that like the whole point of it is that you exchange information and maybe you can then continue the conversation offline. So especially in an event like startup consulting, it's a 2-hour event. A lot of people are kind of working the room and meeting a bunch. You can't really get into the weeds of anything. Like maybe you have a more complicated question that might take 30 minutes to answer, and you don't want to hog up that person's time during the event, like exchange contact information, schedule a coffee with them a week later. And like, so we hope that those relationships continue on offline, but just for your sake and our sake, it's way more easy, way more efficient and easy to like coordinate all those meetings through the events, and then you take it from there, you know.
Yes. A couple other questions in the chat. Uh, it's a pretty well attended event. People love coming out to watch the pitches. So
Mhm.
expect a packed room. If you guys have been in the first floor Jake Jabs Event Center, we typically set up 100 chairs and we typically have to add more
Yeah. And people are
after we
standing.
yeah, we have standing room only. The challenge is that we've got tabling in the back. Like I mentioned, finalists are welcomed and encouraged to table beforehand. So once that's done, we can sometimes fit some more chairs in there. But yes, and like I said, we it's packed with all sorts of different stakeholders. You know, other students, instructors from the business school, local entrepreneurs in the community. It's awesome, fun space. Again, not just as a finalist, but just in general to attend. Um, and it's a great opportunity to put yourself and your idea in front of a lot of people.
And then it looks like Karen clarified if you submit a project and you don't win, can you use the same project improved or developed the next year? Absolutely. That uh, with the clause that you weren't selected as a finalist, right? So it's not about winning or not winning. It's more about were you on stage? Did you present as a finalist? And if so, you can come back to the client, but it has to be a new idea. If you were not selected as a finalist, you can absolutely keep working on that, improve it over the next year, and come back in following climbs and hopefully be selected. And with that, like we said, we work with a group of online reviewers when going over all those applications. And so we encourage them to, take notes, give feedback, ask questions. So if you go through that process and you're not selected as a finalist, like reach out to our team. We're more than happy to provide feedback, give you any guidance, maybe kind of point to areas where you can improve so that you can then work on it.
Honestly, I have to say, this has been the most exciting of all the info sessions I've ever been a part of in terms of number of questions coming through. Like I've never had this many questions in the chat. So might be a big year.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we truly are a team where there's no dumb questions. Please do not be hesitant to ask a question because it may have been answered already or you don't want to bother us. Like we're here for you. We as a team want to support our students. So whether it's stopping by the Jake Jab Center to ask those questions or just sending it, via email, please do so because we would much rather clarify these things up front and set you up for success than have you, freaking out the night before the application is due because you're not sure what to do.
Well, you know where to find us.
Yeah. We got 15 minutes left, but we can wrap up if there's no more questions. Please always be checking the Jake Jab Center website. We'll be posting updates there. Reach out to us if you have questions, of course. But otherwise, we'll be following up. I'll be sending out the link to this recording, be posting it on the Jake Jab Center website as well. But thank you all so much for joining us tonight, asking such great questions, and we're looking forward to hopefully seeing you at the upcoming workshops.
Thank you, Claire and Beatrice.